Hello, artists. This is my next podcast episode. Quick introduction just before I start the podcast. Um, the student comes from Middlesex University doing currently a part-time fine art degree. As for the context of what we're going to be speaking about, the audio was a little bit shaky at the beginning, but then it kind of picks up and improves. So apologies if there is any difficulty understanding the beginning, but I will have timestamps in the comments below for the topics covered, and I hope this is beneficial to all those watching. Amira, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And you're coming to the end of your second year at Middlesex University.
I'm coming to my end of my half of my second year because I'm doing part-time.
Ah, yes, part-time.
So I've completed the first half.
Ah, okay. How are you finding part-time? I guess you can't compare it to full-time, but how are you finding, I guess you're balancing work life and university life?
Yeah, that's right. So my first year I did full-time.
Okay.
It's just the second year that I went into part-time. And it is mostly because I was working part-time as well, and I felt like it was a bit too much.
Yeah.
So in my first year I would not focus on my study as much as I wish I would have.
Yeah.
So this I'm really enjoying it because I do a lot of work at home, like my independent work, researching, writing, and just doing my artwork at home as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a better balance because I can go to work and I'm not too tired, and it just fits me really well.
And not have so much I guess deadlines kind of pressing you all the time from a full-time course.
For sure, yeah.
Makes sense.
Definitely.
So,
And it gives me more time in a way because instead of studying 3 years, I've got 4 years ahead of me. So 3 years when I'm done with this one, because I can use the facilities more, which is actually kind of
you've got access for longer. That does actually sound like an advantage.
Yeah.
So I guess Middlesex. What's your feeling so far from almost 2 years of experience now? Then, what's your kind of opinion on how they've? I guess first of all we can start off with your general kind of feelings, and then I guess we could go into what we did last time is kind of we covered structure, then we covered environment, then we covered the staff, and then you're absolutely welcome to kind of talk about your own practice, your own work, and we can kind of go on small tangents here and there. But I guess the thing that people want to know the most about first is kind of what's your feelings, and then what do you actually do maybe in your typical week at Middlesex.
And is that just, should I speak generally about the whole school or about my course?
Yeah, you can just your general feelings, I guess, about what you've experienced so far, and you can kind of judge, I guess, what you'd like to say about the school, and then we can go into a bit more specifics for the course.
Yeah. All right. So I started my year 2 years ago in my course, and it was really new experience. It was a lot different to the unis that my friends were going to, which was more up north or down south, seaside. It's definitely a diverse uni, which is really nice. Not only the uni, but also my course. So you really meet people from all around the world, which is just so rich.
Yeah. Because
not only do you learn about your studies, and let's say if you're in a society, you learn about the people there, but you really are so in this bubble of students who really do come from everywhere. There's a lot of international students, and there's also availability to go abroad to do a year or a semester.
Is that the Erasmus scheme by any chance?
It is, yeah. So they have campuses from Middlesex in different countries. For example, Dubai or Mauritius.
Wow, that sounds like a fancy getaway.
Yeah, it's true. And let's do it right now because a friend of mine, she went to Korea, and it was a bit difficult, obviously, with the situation right now. But yeah, so definitely something that really stood out to me is how diverse it was.
Yeah.
And just about my course, for me it was a tiny bit difficult because I came from a background which was not fine arts. I came from a performance art background.
That's very quite different. Yeah.
Yeah, still creative, but teaching was really.
I'm assuming with performance arts, is it with performance arts? Do you have more of a structured kind of approach rather than fine arts is kind of just like you do whatever you want, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like we'd have more guidance, I think. Yeah, definitely more guidance, but in a different way, because in the fine art course that I'm studying at now, there is guidance, but it's more a thing you have to go and get it, you know. So
yeah, they have like they tend to have like general kind of, I guess, statements about just go and work, but your decision making process, all of it is basically you. And obviously you do have some guidance from, I'm assuming, from tutors or a personal tutor that you do have around.
Yeah.
But I guess they are setting you up for that independent practice when it comes to your own artwork, which is difficult to come from if you're coming from a very kind of structured approach beforehand. So I can understand your difficulties at first.
It definitely took a while to get used to, which is why part-time I think is even better, because I get to practice that independence more than if I was full-time. Because I'm more dependent on my work at home.
I guess one thing we went through, I think, which was a helpful way to kind of think about it with the last student I spoke to, is we kind of said, like, generally speaking, what do you get up to in a typical week? So that would be regarding whether that be seminars, lectures, tutorials. Obviously, studio time is probably taking up the bulk of the time. But maybe have a think about kind of those kind of elements. And then generally speaking, what would you get up to in kind of a typical week? Obviously, I know that first year, second year and third year can differ, but we could still kind of generally speak about what are the kind of things you're doing during the course, if that makes sense.
Okay. That makes sense. So this year was a bit more different to last year if it comes to my structure weekly. The week from this past year was, for me, I would basically work a job in the afternoon till 7.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I'll go to uni in the morning and after 7. It's really good because our campus, well, the Growth building, which is the building that the art students and all creative students are in, is open until like 10 o'clock at night. So you can go there into the studios and just carry on with your work, and it's really nice and quiet.
That is quite nice.
Yeah. So
to be honest, I found when I stayed in the studios in the evenings, I actually found the evenings tended to be more busy and the mornings were more quiet.
That is true though. That's true. Depends what time in the morning for me as well, because if you go there at 10, there might be people, but if you go at 7, there's no one there.
Dead silent around that like 8 a.m, half 8.
Same here. But I do enjoy evenings because you can also go to the library, which is open 24/7. So I'll just go there sometimes and do my work there, and you can definitely find a quiet spot there if it's too busy in the studios.
There's something cozy about a library in the evening, huh?
There is, I know what you mean, yes. So then, let's say on Monday, I would, because I was part-time, I only had 2 days where I have to go in for lectures and seminars, which were Monday and Thursday. So I would go in at 10 a.m. and I'd have a lecture, followed by a seminar. And then after that, it was up to me, I'd stay on campus or not. So usually I would stay on campus and just carry on with my practice in the studios. Then I'd also go to work outside from uni, and I'd come back and pick up from where I stopped. So most of the time it will be in the studio, library, or I would go home and carry on my work from home. And then, so I'd have 2 days in uni with lectures and seminars. And that was also the time that I'd spend with the people on my course. in the studios,
Yeah.
because it's a very open kind of environment where everyone just hangs out with each other. If like doing art or not, you just kind of hang out and just share whatever.
Have you found the studio spaces? Have you found a lot of people use the studio spaces, as in there is quite a nice studio environment, or do you find that they're dead a lot of the time, or alive a lot of the time, or is it a bit of a mix depending on the time of the year, or how do you feel about like the energy of the studio spaces, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it's definitely quite a bit of a mix, because it depends on what time of the day.
Yeah.
But if you walk in as a guest viewing the studios, you're gonna think, yeah, everyone is using the studio really well, because there's a lot of art hanging around. But a lot of time you won't find people all working on their practices, just because everyone has a different time schedule.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll walk through the studio, you see a few people doing work. So it is used, but it's also used for other things like sitting around chatting, which can be, good for some people to socialize, but for others it might not be good if they want to concentrate. So it was quite a mixed environment.
Do you have are there studio rules at all? Because one of the things, because I'm kind of that person who really needs a quiet space to be able to concentrate. And one problem I had in university were people like playing their music out loud, just chatting, using it as a social space, where it was kind of, it's like obviously we have no problem with people socializing. It's just when it's a workspace, it's supposed to be a workspace. But I did have tutors who came in and kind of went to people and were like, what are you doing? Like, what do you think this is? And then they would also make kind of announcements in our lectures and stuff saying, do not play music out loud, and have that kind of respect for the studio environment. Do you have something like this in your university as well, or?
Yeah, it was kind of similar, especially in first year, because people were playing out music, like you said.
Yeah.
And so we did have kind of guidelines, which were like, do not play music loud. Only if the people around, think it's okay.
Yeah.
So if you ask them other things like, don't move things, that was definitely a problem in our studio, because sometimes people take up too much space and take away desks and things. So, and there wasn't cameras in our studio space, so we couldn't say who did what. Or
are there any lockers that you can kind of keep maybe like expensive paints or paintbrushes in, if you're not you have some kind of storage facility?
Just outside of our studios, we had little storage lockers, which was good, but not that many people used them.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got an idea of the studios. So you've got your studio time, you've got your lectures and seminars on. Let's talk a little bit about lectures and seminars on the Monday and Thursday. So in terms of the content of your lecture, is it like a seminar on the lecture that you just had, kind of you have like a discussion and a critique about it, or is the seminar kind of on a different topic relative to the lecture that you just had? I'm rolling again. So you were saying about we were talking about lectures and seminar. So you were saying about how your discussions in the seminar were sometimes and sometimes not related to your lectures, as in like a mix, or?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, depending on what we're working on. So when it is, for example, preparation for an exhibition, the seminars are simply based on preparing for that exhibition.
So when you say preparing for an exhibition, as in going to visit an exhibition, having your own exhibition, as in an assessment exhibition, or?
Yeah. So it's usually when we had our own exhibitions, but going to exhibitions was also a big part, especially of the first year.
Yeah.
And then, but most of the time we had seminars, but afterwards we discussed the exhibition that we did afterwards.
Yeah.
But as the ones that we made, we would have seminars on those. We would, be taught how to curate, and we would just work as a team to make the show happen, really.
Do you find that curating, it's obviously you kind of, curating is quite subjective, but it tends to be more about communication than anything else, right? As in just discussing what everyone's work is about, and possibly kind of having everyone's contrasting subjective opinions on what kind of, I guess, pictorial language works the best with each other, right? I find it's difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly what good curation is, but
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like
I
lots of
understand.
people
Yeah.
have different opinions about kind of what works and what doesn't work. But
Yeah, definitely. And especially as my year group wasn't that big, but it's still like 25 people. It's difficult to make those decisions to an exhibition. Just simply things like even the flyer and things, like it starts, and it was really difficult actually when I think about it.
yeah,
But it still worked. But yeah, it was tricky.
you can, I guess you can see why galleries, or I guess you could say exhibitions, they just choose like one person to do it all, because then you don't have like 400
Yeah,
contrasting opinions.
yeah,
And I think
definitely.
what, when it becomes a little bit difficult is when you get maybe quite assertive people wanting to kind of, I guess, have their opinion heard, but you can't kind of take everyone's opinion, and it has to kind of, you kind of have to come to a decision with in regards to some things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And especially like we were not taught. I'm not on a curating course. It's a fine
Mm,
art course, so sometimes it would also be the lecturer's opinion that would at
yeah.
the end, go through with the decision of the whole show. But yeah, it was definitely an experience, and I've learned from it. But
So
I'll
let's
stick to fine art and
yeah
leave creating on the side for now.
let's talk about tutorials a bit. How often do you have tutorials? As in, do you have tutorials personally from like a personal tutor, um, a number of times per term, or
Yeah, so we each have a personal tutor.
yeah,
Sometimes it would even be two. And to be fair, you can have as many tutorials as you want as long as the tutor has time for you. But we would have set tutorials every 2 weeks. Yeah, every 2 weeks you have a tutorial. If you can't make it, you make up a different time. And most of the time, it can just be as short as 10 minutes, just catching up,
yeah.
showing the work you've done, and hearing their feedback and any advice or research ideas.
Mm. And have you
Yeah,
found that that there are like different tutors have different kind of specialities, or generally speaking, are they all kind of fine artists aware of, I guess you could say, traditional mediums such as painting, sculpture, printmaking, or are some of them, like, let's just say, more specialized for installation, or another one is more specialized for painting? Do you find that there's variation, or
No, in my course, there's definitely variation when it comes to the teachers, because almost each of them was working professionally in a different art practice. So depending on what an individual is working on, you would kind of have to go to that tutor to ask for a tutorial, which you could do, which is really good. So you're not forced to only have tutorials with the tutor that has been assigned to you.
yeah,
But you can ask for help from another tutor who's, let's say, who is a sound artist who only does work with sound. So you can go and ask him, and you can arrange tutorials with him.
so more kind of specialized questions for things that you might be interested in?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So you basically, you do have access to kind of a range of different tutors doing a range of different things.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so we've covered lectures, tutorials, seminars. I guess that's generally speaking the basic structure of the course. So I'm assuming that when it comes to you spoke about studio space, studio time. I'm assuming the bulk of your time is made up by the studio time, right? As in, majority of the time that you're spending is not obviously in the lectures, seminars, tutorials. It's going to be just in the studio working, right?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I think this is
Even in
common.
full time.
Yeah, this is common amongst most fine art courses. I think I can say that
Yeah.
confidently. But yeah, you were saying, sorry, before I interrupted.
Yeah, from the studio time, also full time. So now part time obviously is even bigger.
Yeah.
Because the module that I did the last few months was very studio based, so I had to be in the studio all the time. But even in full time, everyone is in the studios all the time. You have lectures, you have maybe fine art not fine art, life drawing classes, show visitings, but most of the time, yeah, it's right. It's
I find that sometimes the things such as the life drawing classes and other workshops, they don't tend to be anything compulsory, just kind of optional sessions that are just done kind of every now and again. In terms of, I'm assuming it's going to be a no, but is there any kind of formal traditional training that is compulsory in your course in regards to sculpture, printmaking, painting, the kind of, I guess, the core practices of what you would say is fine art? Do you have any kind of traditional training, technical training when it comes to these things? I'm assuming it's going to be a no, because I don't think this really exists in many fine art courses now.
It's a no.
Yeah.
I think that curriculum, that's been left quite a while ago.
In the back in the 18th century.
But even if the training is there, or you have the classes available to you, it's still it's not compulsory, you know what I mean? It's not, you won't get graded on it.
It's interesting. I think future, my opinion is future art education, I think, should be a balance between, obviously it is important to give students freedom, but it would be nice to see courses that are more specialized in kind of different technical training pathways. Not that everyone, for example, a sculptor doesn't have to learn about painting, for example, in a fine art course if they know themselves as a sculptor, but I think that they should be able to choose units and have traditional training in certain units that they can kind of choose and go I guess down a pathway that they can switch if they want to, but I think that the training should be compulsory and it should be taught to, because I feel like the art fundamentals is something that is just let go of now, and I feel like having those fundamentals is absolutely key to improving yourself as an artist, whether that be observational skills. The way you make work changes so much when you understand the fundamentals of I guess what you're doing. But they call me old fashioned, huh? But
I understand that though, and I think especially coming from a different background, that was what kind of confused me a bit, because I kind of had a different image of what it would be like. But you were saying about how it would be good if students could choose a pathway and then learn the technical and theoretical part about that. And on my course, which I thought quite good this year, was that in your second year you start to choose a pathway, and that was either critical practice, so you attend a lot of seminars and lectures about it, multimedia practice, social practice, or the studio fine art practice. So the lectures that you had to attend, those were compulsory. So let's say you were into movies, making movies, you would go to multimedia and you would learn more about the technical you would learn technical skills and all the theory behind it. So it was kind of compulsory, and then in your third year you can decide that to be your actual title, so you can actually get a fine art BA degree in multimedia.
So technically then in your course for the second year, there is some kind of a pathway for the units going on.
Okay. And in third year you have to make that decision of what pathway you're going to take. So everyone does kind of start to, not, how do I explain this? Like you do finish with a BA fine art,
but it's within a specific, it can be within a specific context. Because I guess because I did a BA in painting, even though we did have flexibility, I guess I already had that specialization from the beginning. So I guess that's probably why my university didn't so much do this kind of pathway direction in second year. So I'm kind of curious. I'm curious now to hear from other fine art courses. Do those courses have that kind of pathway in the second year to then specialize your BA into something maybe more specific? Because I guess that does make sense when if you're trying to appeal to certain maybe job positions, like for example working for a business to do social media marketing or something like this, or like making obviously making content now for businesses for social media, there's a huge demand for that, obviously, as the internet has kind of changed the way everything works. But I guess if you have that multimedia specialization, you can say like, look, this is what I'm used to making films, I know about this stuff, and then obviously a company is probably more likely to pick you up with maybe that specialization versus someone who maybe has specialization like painting. For me, they'll be like, okay, so how is your painting going to help us? But then again, I would argue that it is all about kind of experience in your portfolio when it comes to, I guess, selling yourself to certain job positions and stuff. And it's just how well we can manage our presentation, I guess. That's the way I kind of see it. So I guess, to be honest, we've kind of covered what we kind of need to cover for the core conversation when it comes to what people would probably want to know about the course already, because we spoke about the structure, we spoke about the studio environment, we've spoken about the staff a bit. Do you want to touch any more on kind of like the environment, like the actual size of the studio spaces and how you kind of maybe feel in your own space? Obviously you spoke a little bit about people invading each other's spaces, but I think this is common in every single fine art course. But in terms of I guess the size of the space, like the quality of the kind of maybe the board or the wall you're working on.
So in my second year, I was really pleased with the studio spaces because we had printers, Mac computers right next to it, so in the same room. The studio space was pretty big. Yeah. But it was not only second years, but also third year students in there. So in the first year, we had our own studio space. Yeah. In the second year, it's shared. So each has meant to have a desk like 150 meters around. You've got your wall behind it, and then depending on what your practice is, you might need a bit more space. It's a good studio output because the light was pretty good. Windows, you can open them, like basic stuff, but I think it does make a difference. Yeah. Things that are available, so like lockers, for example. Cool. What else?
Yeah, because so basically you're saying that your studio space is the kind of the size of maybe kind of an average size desk with wall behind it, so you can hang your work. And in terms of studio space size, I mean, obviously you're saying second and third years share a space. This was the same in my university. But generally speaking, our studio space got larger throughout second year and third year. Is it the same for you guys, or?
I believe that third year students do have more space. Because a lot of time they also have more artwork hanging up, but I think it's still kind of more. Let me think quickly.
More or less the same as first year studio space.
Yeah. It also depends on like how lucky you are.
Yeah, there is a bit of luck when it comes to the allocation, isn't it? Do you feel as though as a part-time student they might, I don't want to say prioritize you less, but do they kind of maybe give the full-time students a bit more leeway, or did they try and kind of really make sure that the part-time students also feel like they're being kind of, I guess, given exactly the same? Or do you think that maybe they give some larger spaces to the full-time students? I don't know if that's a bit of a controversial question to ask, but
no, I see what you mean, because for me it was a bit different. Yeah. In my situation, I'd say but that is not because I was a part-time student, but because I enrolled a little later.
Okay. So you're kind of just like a bit of a latecomer, so all of the good spaces were probably taken already. Is that? Okay.
Yeah. But it comes to like second year students, the space you really choose it yourself. So there is enough space for all the students, but and part-time students definitely have like the same one like full-time.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And even if you don't, you are still gonna kind of be able to,
expand.
make more space. You might not have a desk as big, but you can get more wall space.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of time I was actually more in the studios than others, because I was working a lot in the studio.
Yeah.
Because I was part-time.
Yeah.
So I would use the space sometimes even more than other full-time students.
You sound like a hardworking student. Someone with the right attitude, anyways. So you know what? Let's talk a little bit about your own practice. Do you want to send me any pictures of your work? Do you want me to kind of promote your?
Yeah.
Because you said
Yes.
I remember your email. You said you didn't have any artwork on your Instagram yet, but I'm happy to promote anywhere where you're kind of showing your artwork, or if you want to put some work up on a new Instagram or something. I'm happy to promote any kind of contact details or whatever during this kind of podcast, so that if you did display your work here and someone did want to contact you or ask you questions about the university and stuff, I'm happy to kind of put any details you want me to display in the video. I can do that. But kind of what
something I'm working on right now, putting my stuff online.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure. Maybe my Insta, but maybe not. I'm not sure.
What you can do is you can have a think about it. Whatever. Watch the podcast, because what I can always do is I'll just announce right now that if you do send me anything, I'll have it in the description. So if you send me something, or if you don't, then I can always update it. And if you do send me, I can put it in the video anyway. So
awesome.
Yeah. But your practice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your practice. What are you interested in? Are you painter? Are you sculptor? Are you installation?
Right now, painting, drawing, and photography. But
I like that combination.
When I sorry?
I said I like that combination. I always love speaking to painters. So.
Yeah. But when I involved, I was just experimenting with literally all the mediums.
Yeah.
So it's still something that I kind of do now, and I love to use different things on my painting. So like I add 3D elements onto it, just because I feel a bit limited when just using paint.
What kind of materials are you using for the 3D element of it?
A lot of time it's clay. And textile.
Have you tried modeling paste?
Modeling paste? Not really.
I've found
basically.
I've done some experimentation myself with modeling paste, and modeling paste can, if you like kind of like a painterly surface, like a thick painterly surface, you can really you can really nicely build up some modeling paste, and it dries pretty quickly. So then you can build acrylic and oil paint on top of it if you want, and it gives the illusion of like really thick paint. So if you want to check out modeling paste, that's my recommendation is some modeling paste if you like the 3D textures.
That sounds really good. Is that the modeling paste that dries or not? Does it not dry?
Yeah, so it's kind of, imagine kind of just like you're putting like a thick white, it's almost kind of like, imagine you're putting like thick white acrylic paint on, but like you kind of just shape it, and then it will dry, and then it will look like just thick white paint, and then you can just build on top of that further with paint. There's an artist called if you type in Jason Martin modeling paste, you can see the kind of abstract compositions and abstract works that he creates with modeling paste. Some of his recent stuff is more just oil paint, because when you're wealthy enough, you can just use like so much paint that it becomes 3D. But us, when we're early on in our careers, we ain't got that kind of money to be pouring tubes of paint onto our canvas. But
thank you.
You're welcome. So 3D aspect, mixed media. What about your kind of what kind of subjects are you interested in regards to your work?
Most of the time I have a theme, so I work from that on. I'm not specialized in like painting landscape something, for example. So I always work from a theme and create the piece, whether that's photography, painting, or drawing from that theme.
Yeah.
So my latest theme was consumerism, and then I just created paintings for that theme.
Yeah.
And I just incorporated all the mixed media and all the things. But it really depends on what subject I'm working from, and I decide from there what the medium is I'm going to use.
Basically, creating some kind of structure for yourself before going all in. I think that it makes sense.
Yeah. And like, because I love exploring and like experimenting with different materials and art practices so much, I can have an idea in my head, but I will just do something completely different. Like, I want to do an installation, I want to do a performance, so it's really more based on the ideas, more conceptual than like technical when it comes to painting.
To be honest, it sounds like that suits kind of the modern context of art at the moment.
Yeah.
One thing that RCA, Royal College of Art students were saying to me is when you do have these kind of, I guess, these higher end MA courses and stuff, they are looking more about the concept and the idea and how you kind of critique and challenge that and present that, rather than your kind of, I guess you could say, technical skills with the medium that you've chosen.
Yeah.
So as much as I do push kind of people to learn their mediums and get good with them, I think the reality of sometimes getting into a course is different than just being good with a certain kind of medium. Although I'd love to promote a balance between the two. I think it's great if you can think, and I think it's great if you can do well with the medium that you've chosen as well.
Yeah, I believe so too. And I think it has an influence. It had an influence on me, because it was such a new thing for me entering fine art. The way the course was made, that kind of not like, it didn't like tell this is what my art practice is going to be like, but it kind of did lead me in a way from experimenting and exploring different art forms through going to workshops. That has led me to that kind of work way. Because let's say if I would have had years and years of practicing painting or drawing behind me, I would probably work differently than I do now. Yeah. But it is a bit of a struggle where I want to specialize in one thing. Yeah. But there's almost so many interests around that it makes it a bit hard without having that foundation of, the theoreticals and all the skills from years of practice, if that makes sense. I think one thing, I mean, you're probably a little bit aware of my videos, but one thing I always mention is drawing. I think if people have a drawing practice, it's so beneficial just to be looking at something and really trying to understand how that thing works, because even if you're looking to represent it in an abstract manner, you have to kind of understand it first to break it down. So for example, I mean, obviously Picasso is the obvious example. When it comes to Cubism, you can see him breaking down kind of whether it be the face or the figure into different parts, but to be able to break it down in a way that works, he has that traditional basis. And then obviously towards the end of his life, he's painting more like a child rather than a traditional kind of, painter. So I do think that even when it comes to the strongest abstract artists now, many of them have that foundation in things like drawing and having the traditional understanding of, those fundamentals in art. So I do always push people learn little bit by little bit if you can, because I really think it does benefit that the abstract side of things or the conceptual side of things too. Yeah, that's good. I think when it comes to my drawing, I think most of the time it's not something that I create big pieces with. It's really also the drawing is more of a continuing thing, just my practice, but not something that I would exhibit. It's really my own personal practice, just developing, which also helps with my photography and with my painting. It all benefits each other basically.
Okay, so I guess we've covered a lot. Is there anything extra you would like to add before we I guess conclude our discussion about Middlesex? Is there anything unique maybe you would say about your uni that you haven't really heard from others, or is there anything? Are there any cherries on the top you would like to put on the podcast before we come to an end?
I think when it comes to my course, I'm not sure about other courses, but the thing that I really liked in first year is that we had so many. Each week we had guest speakers who would come on a Wednesday afternoon. It could be curators, artists, and just other art professionals who would come in and talk to the students about their practice and their work, and that really helped me to, hear about the different art forms out there.
Like what basically where can I go after I finish this degree? Give me some kind of a vision, and you have a better idea of what you can actually go into.
That's true. Yeah.
And
a lot of time I feel like courses don't prepare you in that way from as much for the work after uni.
Not at all. I think there's almost zero. They don't tell you where to even look for a job, never mind what job to go into. So I can see, this is why I kind of take the approach that if you're going into art and you want to practice as an artist, you have to think of yourself as a business. And then the moment you realize you're a business, then you have to think about budget, marketing, how you kind of making money. And then obviously majority of us are going to be obviously probably working kind of part-time to support our own kind of artistic career at the beginning. But obviously the end goal is you want to have that income that gives you enough to eat and live, and then slowly kind of build that up even further as obviously your practice develops. But I think a lot of people don't understand this going into fine art. They think, like, to be honest, I think it's with a lot of other degrees as well. I think a lot of people just think that doing a degree is just going to secure you some kind of job at the end of it, and you're just going to work your way up from the bottom of some kind of company. But there aren't any companies out there that are going to come to you and say, hey, come and make paintings for us. Like, they just don't exist.
That's true.
So we have to go out there and find our customers, and it can be quite intimidating at first, and you've got to have confidence and self-belief, and at the same time always be pushing your knowledge. And we always have to kind of be working on ourselves as an individual, not just as an artist as well, which I think is quite a challenging thing. But it
can be overwhelming.
But little bit by little bit, I always say break things down step by step. Stay positive, and work hard, work smart. These are the things we have to work out.
Yes, very true. And I think what would be really good, I think, is that fine art courses would, that's a dream, would offer like simple things like marketing, that type of thing.
In your dreams. In your dreams.
In my dreams.
In your dreams. You want them to actually educate us?
It's peak, but
to be honest, I think one thing that's difficult for modern courses is that the world has changed so fast in the last 10 years. Education just hasn't caught up, and the system that I think the education is built from, it just doesn't work in a modern context. So I think what needs to happen is really education needs to evolve with how fast, I guess, things are evolving now. Because look at how social media marketing has changed within the past 5 years. It's like, how is a 3-year course going to keep up with that and change their curriculum constantly to keep up with everything? Like, I think it's difficult. So I guess we can't just throw tomatoes at whoever runs the courses, but it's more of a complicated question than it might seem. Because we can say kind of like, just teach us marketing, but then you have to ask the question kind of like, what is marketing, and how does it change, and how many types of different marketing are there for artists out there? Like, being picked up by a commercial gallery is completely different from promoting yourself individually on social media, which are things that I'm picking up and learning about slowly. And I'm hoping to kind of document everything I managed to get through and kind of learn from on YouTube as I go along. This is one reason why I made the channel, just to help people who just don't know about this stuff, because it does take a while to understand and get used to, because there's so much information out there. And I'm sure that universities probably have these kinds of problems too, like how do they structure a course around all of this information. But yeah, we can have hope.
But I feel like, we can have hope, right? And even it would be good if even people have conversations like these in courses, in fine art and art courses, because they obviously won't be able to teach us about marketing and things, but simply talking about it sometimes would help, because sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a taboo. And when I entered the course, we actually started off with, the course with talking about why everyone says to you, what are you going to do after fine art degree? Like, what are you going to do for life? So it kind of set us up with already questioning what we're going to do after when we just had enrolled, but without kind of giving us the options, without telling us what options are available. So it's kind of what am I going to do? I'm not sure, so you just have to find out on your own.
Yeah, there's that stereotype of, like McDonald's has their doors open and here's some burgers for you to cut, and it's just like, nah. Some of us do have ambition, and we are going to work hard, and we are going to go to places. But at the same time, it's just like, not to put anyone down who has to go into an entry-level job. It's like, by all means. But I think it's understanding also that there are opportunities out there for creative people. It's not so much that it's like, I don't think anyone is going to pay you to come out of a fine art course and just do what you want to do. This just doesn't exist. That's a fact. But there's also a fact that if you have made use of your time in university, you've educated yourself, you've built up a practice of understanding how to work independently and creatively and have a creative process, you can sell that to companies who need it, such as businesses who do need people to make content, who do need people to make films for them, who do need people to make, whether that be graphics, illustrations, or other kind of traditional media for their kind of social media promotion. Like, the world has evolved, and this is something that is becoming very important to big and small companies. So the opportunities are there. It's just, I wish the unis communicated that to the students, and maybe they don't know even themselves, but it's like, where do you kind of find these kinds of jobs, and where do you look, and how do you kind of create your portfolios, how do you present? Because I think another reality of today as well is that when it comes to jobs and experience, obviously back in the day, I think there was more jobs available, and the way you obviously get experience is you just go and get a job, you get the experience, and then you kind of apply to the next one, and they will kind of, obviously you have the experience, but now it's, you work for free to get the experience, to then get the job after working for free. And a lot of people, I think, don't like obviously working for free, or whether they don't want to, or whether they don't have the right attitude towards it. But it's just the reality of today that sometimes to get the experience and to understand these things, you have to go and work for free. And I'm not saying, and obviously it's a reality that especially somewhere like the UK or London particularly can be really expensive to live. So if you don't have a support network, it's almost impossible to do these things sometimes. But even if it is just like a couple of hours a week, you go to a company, you begin to understand these things, and you just try different things and get different experience. These are things that can build up a portfolio, build up a CV, build you up a network of people who are doing this professionally. So then you can start putting your foot into different doors, if you don't want to take that kind of independent business direction. Because I do understand that sometimes people just, I think maybe particularly artists as well, just aren't into the whole numbers commercial side of things, even though that can really help you do what you want to do if you're good at it. But it's difficult nevertheless. So yeah, I guess we can conclude now. Would you like to say anything else before we finish the podcast? We'll end it on a positive note, I guess, that everyone should work hard, stay positive, and just keep our heads down and focused. But
definitely.
But
I think the working, that will really strengthen you as an artist always. So even if the course is a bit scary, but you have to love independent work, for anyone out there who's, starting or just has an interest in roles to a course, that independent working is really going to help you. Because it was a struggle for me as well at the start, but it definitely paid off.
Well, I guess the reality is it's the real world, isn't it? You're on your own when you come out.
That's true as well. Yeah.
There ain't going to be no personal tutor knocking on your door when you go home after the 3-year course.
Very true.
So okay, Amira, thank you for being my second episode of my special podcast, which I still don't know the name
welcome.
of.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting chatting to, I guess, different students about their course. And I think it's good now that we also have a perspective of a part-time student, which is something I didn't even think about before, to be honest. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And make sure to send me any work you would like me to present during the podcast, and I will definitely kind of rotate it as we're speaking about your practice and your work.
All right.
So
Amazing.
Thank you, and then I guess
thanks for the opportunity.
That's all right. All the best for your course. All the best for your 3rd year, and feel free to drop me an email with your degree show stuff or anything like that. While I still have a manageable audience and inbox. Okay. So thank you, and all the best. And wait, what time is it right now? It's morning, so I guess good morning or good afternoon to you, and then I'm gonna go cook dinner now.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh, that's so good. All right.
Anyways,
it's lovely speaking to you.
Good to speak to you too, and as I said, all the best for everything in your career and whatnot. So thank you for watching this podcast. If you are a student yourself in 2nd or 3rd year of university, or have completed a fine art course in the past, I am looking for people to interview on this podcast. This is about reaching out to students and really understanding what's going on in different courses around the UK and even internationally. So feel free to drop me a message on Instagram, or check out my video that is on the homepage of my channel, which gives more information about how to contact me and an understanding of what I will ask in the podcast. So thanks for watching, and all the best.